Are you a fiction writer seeking inspiration for survival scenarios in your stories? Dive into 5 outdated survival advice where we debunk long-held beliefs about staying alive. From rubbing hypothermic skin to the misguided use of gunpowder on wounds, we'll explore the history and myths behind these outdated tips. Discover the truth about map north versus compass north, why first aid kits are non-negotiable, and the silliness of following birds to water. Each episode contains a what could possibly go wrong in your story, a segment bursting with plot twists and challenges for your characters. Tune in to make these survival scenarios not only accurate, but riveting. Welcome to Writing Rule with Ellie, the Fiction Writer's weekly inspiration station for rule life and lifestyles, from historical to post-apocalyptic, helping you bring your rule stories to life. I'm Ellie, and this is episode number 100. Woohoo! 100 episodes! 5 outdated survival advice. Now, let's get into this. This is the 5th in a 5-part series to help you write more realistic survival scenarios, or at least let your characters give good advice. So without further ado, number 1. If a person is hypothermic, rub their skin to warm them. This one has likely been around since caveman times. I'll admit, until I learned better, I would have likely tried this myself. It is not a leap to think that since rubbing your hands together to warm them, it could help somebody else stay warm. However, that's not the best idea. Rubbing can lead to damage of the skin, the formation of blisters, and these can lead to infection. More importantly, rubbing it causes blood that the body has diverted to the core to come back to the skin. The cold blood on the surface level will rush back to the heart and the core of the body. This drops the body temperature even more than it already is. Things only get worse from there, as this can also cause heart arrhythmias. Heart arrhythmias means that the heart beats irregularly. This can be dangerous or potentially life-threatening. The cold rush can also shock the cardiovascular system. This shock adds stress to the heart, which can lead to cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is when the heart suddenly stops beating. If not treated with a defibrillator quickly, this will be deadly. If your character is lucky enough not to have those issues, the stress this puts on the body can also cause breathing issues. They can have a hard time breathing. There can also be decrease in oxygen being delivered to vital organs. Your character needs those organs to function if they hope to survive. So, what should your character do? Let's cover the historical ways first. They would take them into a warm area, inside or near a fire. Remove all wet clothing, or clothing that has snow on it because the snow will melt and then that'll just make it wet. Next, they will wrap them in warm blankets, shawls, furs, or even towels. The fire will be stoked, meaning that they will make it bigger to make it hotter. Warm drinks can be given to help warm them, but never hot drinks, as this can burn them. Herbal teas, broths, coffees, and even warm whiskey were given depending on what was available. Body heat is sometimes used. We have all heard the tales of skin-to-skin contact to save people, and it is something that has happened. Not all body heat was skin-to-skin. Huddling around the person or someone holding them was also used. Although I gotta admit, holding them sounds more like a parent and child thing. Hot stones were wrapped in linen and placed next to them, under their feet, held, or almost any way that you can think of. Hot stones could also be bricks. There was also something called a warming pan. In the 16th century, these stones were updated to warming pans. Through metal boxes, the coals could be put into and moved around the bed before someone got into the bed to warm it. However, I know many elderly people who tell me that they used to wait until it cooled enough that it would be safe to place in the bed with them. Others say that they placed bricks under it and above it to keep the bed and the blankets from catching on fire. Then they would put a blanket over the bricks to warm the bed and everyone in it. Warm water bladders were also used. This could be primitive, such as a bison bladder, or more modern, with rubber water bladders. According to a quick web search, they were invented in 1903. Today, of course, they would get inside a warm place and seek medical attention, likely calling 911 to get help. If help is not available for whatever reason, bring the character into a warm place, make a fire, or have a heater close by, but not blowing directly on them. Do as above and remove all of the wet clothing and wrap them in a warm, dry blanket. I remember being told you could put things in the dryer and let it run for about 10 minutes to warm them up and then wrap them. Give them warm drinks, but not hot. Body heat can help. Warm water bottles can be wrapped in a dish towel and placed next to them. There are also some no-nos for treating hypothermia. Your character should not apply anything hot to the skin. This includes, but is not limited to, hot water, hot stones, hot water bottles, heating pads, heating lamps, or anything like this. Applying extreme heat can not only damage the skin, but can also cause cardiac arrest. Your character should also focus on warming the core of the body and not the extremities. Focusing on the arms and legs risk the same cardiac and lung dangers as we already covered. If you would like to learn more about hypothermia, I have a full episode on this. Number 2. Using gunpowder on wounds. Gunpowder was invented in the 19th century in China. Sometime in the 16th century, it was applied to wound care. Yes, you heard that correctly. The main purpose of it was to stop bleeding. There are both records praising and condemning the use. Some say it worked. Some say that it just blew holes in people. Having handled gunpowder, though not extremely often, I believe this would depend on how much was used. A small amount would burn, and just a slightly smaller amount would basically explode. If that was placed inside a hole in your character's arm or leg, they might not have an arm or leg anymore. It would take practice to get this right, and you can only imagine what your character had to do to get that practice. At that time, people believed that gunpowder would also sterilize a wound. Let's be clear here. That's not true. The chemicals in the gunpowder would introduce bacteria caused by chemical burns before it was even lit, and when lit, could greatly expand the size of the wound while pushing bacteria further into the wound. This is not a recipe for healing. Still, that's not the most surprising thing. The thing that makes me wonder what they were smoking is that many doctors claimed that the explosion provided pain relief. What? No sir, it does not. It might burn the nerve endings off and be mistaken as pain relief. It might even cause the kind of severe trauma to an area that spikes adrenaline that might trick the brain into initially not feeling the pain. But it most definitely does not relieve pain. Number 3. North on a map and a compass are the same direction. Now I know it was hard for my kids to understand at first, but true north, map north, and magnetic north are all different things. Let me give you a few definitions before I jump into this explanation. If you look at a map, there are longitude and latitude lines. Longitude lines are the ones that go north and south. True north is where all of the lines come together at what is called the North Pole. It is a fixed point on the globe, meaning it never moves. Map north is the direction of north on the map. It is a direction indicating north, which may not perfectly align with true north due to the map's projected distortions. What distortions, you ask? Where they are trying to make the round shape of the world fit onto a flat map. Magnetic north is where the compass points and is determined by the Earth's magnetic field. Okay, so what does all this have to do with anything? Well, magnetic north is always moving. Since the time that it was first recorded, that I can find, in 1831, the Earth's magnetic field has moved 680 miles. That's 1,100 kilometers. In fact, in recent years, it has moved up to 34 miles in a single year. Long story short, that makes magnetic north and true north, as of the time that I am recording this at the beginning of 2025, about 1,200 miles or 500 kilometers away from each other. So what does that mean for your character? That depends. If they have a map that is aligned with magnetic north, they'll be able to use the compass and follow the map. If, like the vast majority of maps, it is aligned to true north, then if they follow the map, let's say out of the forest they were lost in, there's a good chance that they will be a few miles off from where they meant to come out at. For this reason, many people prefer general direction of north and then a map with geographical features. This balances things out and helps them know if they got off course. Knowing where mountains, rivers, valleys are a huge help for staying on target. Number 4, first aids are optional. This is something that I have seen with my own eyes, watched TV shows say, and have read historical newspapers saying that people who lived within a certain mileage area to a hospital didn't need. Basically, they're suggesting going to the doctor or hospital for every little thing. It's not clear when people started this belief, but I assume it's something that happened around or after, at least here in the US, the 1986 Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Law. This is the law that emergency rooms can't turn patients away even if they can't pay. I remember being a kid and asking why this was even a law. I mean, who would do that? My dad told me this heartbreaking story about when he was a child and a man carried his wife in from the farm. She was having a heart attack, but they couldn't pay up front. The man begged and pleaded. The doctor carried his wife out and set her outside of the hospital 3 times. The first 2 times, he carried her back in. So the last time, they locked the doors. All the man could do was sit outside of the hospital and sob as his wife died in his arms. Okay, I can't even read that without tearing up. And I wasn't even there. Okay, back to things that don't make me cry. A few quick notes on this. Many Native Americans used to carry what was called medicine bags. This is basically a first aid and pharmacy in one. In modern times, I know many people who started carrying first aid kits or expanding their first aid kits after needing it and not having it. And frankly, it's kind of human nature to learn the hard way sometimes. Let's hope it was for something minor unless you're into writing the other. Number 5, following the birds to find water. I saw this advice for the first time on one of those survival shows and felt like face-palming for them. I do understand that birds need water, and little songbirds need water every few hours. But the issue is, unless your character is a birdie mind reader, they've no idea what the bird's looking for. Your character could watch a group of birds fly miles off and look like they land. Maybe there is water, but it's more likely that they saw a yummy worm. They could have eggs or hatchlings to take care of. They might need to rest their wings. I've seen little songbirds fly through the forest trying to stay out of the reach of the hawks that were flying above the tree line. Now, there's one thing I know that you can follow birds to. If your character's on a ship in the ocean, birds can sometimes be followed to shore. Why sometimes? Because some birds live on rock bluffs in the ocean. Unless your character's looking for rocks, that won't be of much help. If you enjoy this content, I hope you'll take a moment to share it with a friend. Now, for everyone's favorite part, what could possibly go wrong in your story? Likely to go wrong. Your character is following a map and their compass, and misses what they were aiming for because they didn't know the difference between map north and magnetic north. This leaves your character very confused. Also likely to go wrong. Your character didn't think first aid kits were needed. When they get a wound that needs stitches, they decide to cauterize it with gunpowder. When they put it in the wound, they introduce bacteria into the wound, and soon, it is infected. Possible to go wrong. Your character is suffering from hypothermia. Their friend is trying to warm them up by rubbing their cold skin. This causes shock to their system, leading to cardiac arrest. If they don't get immediate medical treatment, this will be deadly. Also possible to go wrong. Your character heard that gunpowder can cauterize a wound. A hunting accident leaves them with an arrow wound to their leg, and they decide to cauterize it with gunpowder and stuff the wound before lighting it. This causes a small explosion, and they lose their leg. This could easily be deadly. Unlikely to go wrong. Your character uses a bed warming pan when it's still hot and burns the sheets. Also unlikely to go wrong. Your character uses hot water on someone with hypothermia. This not only burns them, but causes cardiac arrest. If they do not get immediate medical attention, this will be deadly. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character follows magnetic north while using a map as a reference. They soon come to a cliff and realize they're not doing something right and are now very, very lost. Also improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character thinks following birds will lead them to water. They see birds fly off into the horizon and follow. However, the birds were simply going back to their nests for the night. By the next day, your character is further away from water and lost. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy wordsmithing!